So there's been a bit of talk going on around an incident or let's say situation on Question Time in which a Polish woman was speaking and was booed by the audience. Well, I have to admit, when I first heard the story, what she'd said was that she felt unwelcome since Brexit. Now, when I first heard the story, and this has been presented very much in a clickbait format by the likes of the BBC, when I first heard about it, my first instinct was, well, the booing just vindicates her point. But I've watched the video and I'm looking at it from another angle now. Um, the BBC presented this on their YouTube channel as Polish woman jeered on Question Time. Now, if you look at that on the surface, it looks obviously very xenophobic and nasty and unpleasant. I don't particularly like bullying in any context. I think it's childish and I don't like it. But actually, I watched this. If you don't know, by the way, to my international viewers, Question Time is a British debate program. It's been going for many years. It's a widely watched program and it basically covers politics and current affairs. Usually, there's a panel of about five people from different parties and a few celebrities as well. And it moves around the country. It's sort of a roadshow format. I don't know where this particular show was, but anyway, the woman said that she's married to a British man, and ever since Brexit, she basically feels like 52% of the people don't welcome her here. And at that point, that's when the booing came in. And I think the booing was because, and I'm not justifying it, like I say, I don't particularly like booing, but at the same time, I can understand people being annoyed because basically she's slandering half the country. Now, she started off by saying, oh, I understand there needs to be limits on immigration. But then she basically got into a victimhood narrative and made it all about herself. And this is something that I've been saying. Okay, this is how I see it. I'm well aware that since Brexit, there has been a number of racist incidents reported, and I think some Leavers are in denial about this. There is definitely a situation that has developed. Yes, it's probably been around before, but I definitely think some people have used Brexit as an excuse, and I think those who are saying that there hasn't been racist incidents are well, they have their head in the sand. There was a man murdered in Harlow. There's been examples of father and son attacks somewhere else. I believe that may also have been Essex, certainly one of the home counties. There was a Polish community centre in Hammersmith attacked. Um, so there has been some ugly incidents. I made a video about that, and I stand by that. I abhor that sort of nasty nationalist thinking. It's abhorrent. But by the same token, I'm frankly getting a little bit tired of some polls grandstanding on this and playing up a victimhood narrative. And this is not something that's been happening post Brexit. This is something I've noticed, well, for years. And I'm aware I have to be careful what I'm saying here because nowadays it's so easy to be accused of being a racist. Um, Notwithstanding the fact Polish people are white as well, but this is the way I see it. I feel that as a country we should be open, but we should also be assertive. And frankly, when I hear Polish people decry how racist the British are, my first thought is, okay, well, if you've personally experienced racism, I'm sorry about that. It's wrong. You have my sympathy, and I condemn it. But Poland itself is not the most tolerant country in the world. So there's this grandstanding attitude about how ignorant the British are. But Poland itself is not a particularly tolerant country. It doesn't have a history of great tolerance. Certainly, it's a very conservative society, and Poland has not exactly been, throwing its arms out in welcome to refugees, and even allowing for the fact that it's a poorer country than the UK. It's a bigger country geographically, but the point is, if you're going to grandstand, if you're going to go to another country, live and work in another country. And I understand the argument Polish people work very hard. But frankly, you cannot go to another country and slander the people of that country. And she kind of tried to backtrack a little bit. Oh, I'm not talking about everyone. But the damage was done. And, the way the BBC presented it was that she was jeered because she was Polish. She was jeered for right or wrong because she slandered half the population. And I've said this before, I didn't vote Leave, I voted Remain, but I have long said that you cannot slander all Leave voters as racist. It's a broken record and it doesn't work that way. Certainly, some people will have voted for racist reasons. I think you'd be foolish to say that there isn't racism in society. There is. And there are people who don't like Poles and, they've just got they don't like Polish people. And that's unfortunate. But, I'll tell you a personal situation I experienced. And this isn't, it might be nothing, but it just, I think it's indicative of the sort of environment that we're facing. Shortly after the Brexit vote, I went into a local Polish shop to buy some goods, partly because I needed them, but also to kind of show, frankly, maybe this is me being sentimental, but basically say, look, this is a goodwill gesture. I want to still use your business. I appreciate what you offer, etc. Now, I have to say, they were not exactly welcoming. I wouldn't say they were rude to me, but I just got the impression that it was a kind of cold environment, like we only want Polish people here. And I also believe that when you go to another country and you create, and maybe this will sound like I'm going off on a tangent, but I believe it's relevant. When you create little microcosms of your own country, you cannot complain about the host country not being welcoming if you're going to create little mini Polands or mini whatever it is. Um, there are far fewer British people in Poland than there are Polish people in the UK. And by the way, if you're a 20-year-old Polish person, you can't use the argument of World War II fighter pilots. I'm getting a little bit tired of that one and all. It is true that there were some very brave Polish people who fought for the RAF, or at least in alliance with the RAF during World War II. But that, I think, to be honest, that is relying on sentimental sort of arguments, and it's less important than the facts that are going on today. It is true that Polish people work very hard, but when I hear comments from Polish people like, oh, the young British people are lazy and the British unemployed are lazy, this is something I've heard a number of times where they slander British unemployed people. I take issue with that. I take issue with anyone doing it because, frankly, there is a narrative that is being spun by the right wing press, and I'm not going to get into in depth in this video because I've covered it in other videos. But when individual Polish people say things like, "Oh, the British are lazy," they can't exactly turn around and say, "Oh, but we demand respect." Okay, so all I'm going to say here is it works both ways. So if you are a Polish national living in the UK, I don't want you to feel unwelcome. I don't want you to feel that you're suffering from racism or anything like that. But you have to understand it works both ways. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. You can't come to the UK and then just constantly complain about how racist the British are and expect people to be okay with that. People will not appreciate you slandering their country. How would you like it if I went to Poland and just went on about, oh, this is a really regressive Catholic society and blah, blah, blah. And I was insulting to the nation I was in. Respect works both ways. And you cannot come to another country and just constantly play the victim. Yes, Polish people work hard. Yes, they contribute to our economy. And we shouldn't lose sight of that. And I would, really not want a situation where people felt unwelcome because of the result of a referendum. But clearly, this woman on Question Time was making it about herself. If you look at the clip, you'll see what I mean. So, firstly, shame on the BBC for using that sort of clickbait journalism. It's misleading. People were not booing her for being Polish. But secondly, it works both ways. Respect works both ways. I've known Polish people who have been very decent, likable people. But I've also come across Polish people who, frankly, are not the most friendly people in the world. Um, and for example, if you're running a Polish shop, sometimes I have seen this situation. This might be a controversial thing to say, but sometimes I get the impression the sort of shops that cater to, frankly, other nationalities are not always most welcoming to the very country that they're in, i.e., British customers. Now, maybe that's from fear that they're going to suffer from xenophobic abuse, in which case that would be a great pity. But I wonder is it also that they are frankly just taking this mentality, oh, well, we're Polish and we're just going to create a little mini Poland. Probably going to be shot down for those comments, but the hell with it. We're too politically correct. We're too overly sensitive about offending people, and in the end of the day, people have to say what's on their mind. I take the view if you're in another country, firstly, you integrate. Secondly, don't just go around acting like you're a victim. To me, that's what this woman was doing. I don't know her personal experience, and if she has had abuse, that's awful. But she can't slander 17 million people because some idiots may have given her a hard time. And I think people resent that, and I think that's why they booed. So let me know your thoughts. If you are Polish, by the way, and you take issue with anything in this video, I am not attacking all Polish people. Like I say, I've known Polish people who are great. I've worked with Polish people, and it is true they're very hard workers. They contribute to the British economy, but I don't think it is a good attitude. I don't think it's a polite attitude to go to another country and kind of look down on people. And when Polish people talk about British unemployed, they're looking down on them. That is a bad attitude to have in another country. So I do take issue with that. Um, So what I would say finally, people need to just calm down and show mutual respect. It works both ways. I will always condemn genuine harassment, racism. It's wrong. Of course it's wrong. What happened to that man in Harlow was appalling. I hope the thugs responsible are caught and punished. But you can't slander 17 million people because of the mentality of some people. And I'm not saying it's a small number of people. There are a lot of people who have a bad attitude, but it is certainly not 17 million people. So, yeah, that's some very candid thoughts.